morality weren't a matter of opinion or consequence, but a law as unbreakable as gravity. Join Immanuel Kant on a philosophical detective story that tracks the source of right and wrong to the hidden core of human freedom. Introduction: Kant's Moral Quest. Imagine 18th century Königsberg, Prussia, a small university town alive with Enlightenment debate about science, politics, and human nature. Into this arena steps Immanuel Kant, a professor of logic and metaphysics who hardly leaves his city limits, yet dares to chart a moral map for all rational beings. In the Groundwork of the Metaphysic of Morals, published in 1785, Kant's mission is both modest and audacious: to seek the supreme principle of morality, the rule behind all genuinely good actions, and to do so without appealing to theology, tradition, or empirical psychology. His method is analytic, beginning with the everyday moral concepts we all share and transcendental, showing what must be true of reason itself, if such concepts make sense. Kant opens by challenging the reader to consider the only thing that can be called good without qualification: a good will. Talent, temperament, and even happiness can become harmful when they are not guided by the will to do what is right. But what exactly makes a will good? Kant will argue that a will is good when it acts not from inclination, not for expected outcomes, but from duty, that is, out of reverence for the moral law. The Groundwork's 3 sections trace an ascent from common moral experience through critical analysis of moral principles up to a synoptic view of the human being as both member of the sensible world of nature and a citizen of an intelligible kingdom of ends. In this first stop on our audiobook tour, we set the stage. Kant is writing for ordinary moral consciousness, yet he also seeks to secure morality on the bedrock of pure reason. He wants to show that freedom is not opposed to law. Rather, true freedom is found in self-legislation by reason. The path will be rigorous and at times dizzying, but the reward, Kant claims, is nothing less than clarity about the dignity of the moral law within us. From common reason to moral law, Kant begins where every listener can relate, with ordinary judgments like, "You ought to keep your promises," or "It was wrong to lie." People routinely assign praise or blame, often without second-guessing the basis of their verdicts. Kant calls this common rational moral cognition, and he treats it as evidence that a principle of duty is already implicit in everyday thought. Yet common reason is inconsistent. Sometimes we justify an action by its helpful results. Other times we condemn the very same act, even if it benefits us, when it violates a moral rule. Kant's first analytical move is to strip away factors such as advantage, emotion, or social approval, and ask, what remains? He concludes that an action has genuine moral worth only when it is done from duty, not merely in accordance with duty. Picture the honest shopkeeper. If she charges fair prices solely to keep customers returning, her behavior aligns with duty but lacks moral worth. By contrast, if a struggling merchant refuses to overcharge a child out of respect for the rule of honesty, even though it costs him, his action is morally worthy because it springs from duty alone. Duty, then, is the necessity of an action out of respect for the law. But we still need the law's content. Kant proposes a guiding test. I should never act except in such a way that I can also will my maxim to become a universal law. This is the first formulation of what will later be coined the categorical imperative. A maxim is a personal principle of action. Universal law is a standard that binds every rational agent. The test requires me to ask whether my private rule could be willed consistently as a law for all without contradiction. If the answer is no, because the very practice I rely on would collapse if universalized, think of making false promises, then the action is morally forbidden. This universalization route moves morality from the empirical realm of outcomes to the purely rational realm of consistency, setting the stage for Kant's deeper exploration of autonomy. The categorical imperative. Unpacked. Section 2 thrusts us into the heart of Kant's argument, distinguishing hypothetical from categorical imperatives. Hypothetical imperatives tell us what we ought to do to achieve some contingent end. If you want good grades, you should study. Their force disappears if the end is abandoned. Morality, however, aims at unconditional obligation. Hence, the categorical imperative commands absolutely. It holds regardless of our desires. Kant develops three principal formulations, each illuminating moral law from a new angle while remaining logically equivalent. The first formulation, universal law, was previewed earlier. The second formulation, humanity as an end in itself, reads, "So act that you use humanity, whether in your own person or in any other, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means." Here, Kant focuses on the value of rational nature. Because rational beings can set and pursue ends, they possess dignity beyond all price. Treating someone merely as a means, through coercion, deception, or exploitation, fails to respect their capacity for self-legislation. This formulation clarifies why lying, exploitation, or breaking promises are wrong, not just because they are universalizable contradictions, but because they instrumentalize persons. The third formulation, kingdom of ends, pictures a systematic union of rational beings who legislate universal laws through their shared will. In this moral republic, every agent is simultaneously sovereign and subject. Laws issue from each rational will, yet bind all. The kingdom ideal captures the social dimension of morality. Every personal maxim must withstand scrutiny as law in a community of equals. Kant's genius is to show that morality is not imposed from outside, but springs from reason's own demand for coherence and respect. Autonomy, self-law-giving, is the hallmark of moral agency. Dependence on inclinations would reduce the will to heteronomy, undermining genuine obligation. Through these formulations, Kant reimagines ethics as a matter of structure rather than substance. It is not about listing concrete duties, though they follow, but about determining the form any moral principle must take to be valid for all rational beings. Freedom, dignity, and moral agency. Having established the categorical imperative, Kant must address a looming challenge. Can humans, caught in a web of natural desires and causal chains, actually be free to obey it? His answer is a nuanced, practical affirmation. The concept of duty presupposes an ought, and an ought implies can. Therefore, moral obligations presume freedom. While speculative reason cannot prove freedom among appearances, practical reason experiences itself as free whenever it deliberates morally. Kant calls this the fact of reason. Consciousness of the moral law is immediate evidence of our noumenal freedom. This dual standpoint, empirical determinism in the phenomenal world, rational freedom in the noumenal, helps reconcile science with morality. We can study human actions causally as events, yet simultaneously regard the agent as a free legislator in the intelligible realm. From this vantage, persons possess an incomparable worth that cannot be traded off for external goods. Their dignity arises from being origins of law rather than products of nature. This insight grounds a network of duties, perfect duties, strict, exceptionless prohibitions like forbidding suicide, lying, or theft, and imperfect duties, positive ends we must adopt, such as cultivating talents and promoting others' happiness. Kant does not supply extensive casuistry, but provides a universal testing procedure that any rational agent can employ. The kingdom of ends ideal also gestures at political implications. Societies should be built on respect for autonomy, not paternalistic manipulation. Modern concepts of human rights, individual liberty, and civic equality echo Kant's moral architecture. In this broader canvas, morality is not a set of stern rules killing joy. It is the exercise of freedom in its most profound sense. To act morally is to rise above contingent wants and to identify with reason's universal voice, an experience Kant describes as sublime. Thus, the groundwork culminates in an ethical vision where rational beings, aware of their dual nature, freely subject themselves to laws they at once discover and create. The result is a community grounded in respect, where each person is a lawgiver in a realm of ends.